Welcome to the Victorious Souls podcast with me, your host, Danielle Burnock from DanielleBurnock.com, that lady on the internet who loves you, connecting you to the love that heals so you can love yourself from survive to thrive. And today, my guest I have with me, I can't wait to get into our conversation, is Shannon Rhodes, but she's also known as Momma Rhodes. Well, we'll get into that. She's a personal development consultant who teaches people how to rewire limiting beliefs and empowers them to pursue their purpose with confidence. She believes it's your right to do so. Thank you for being with me today, Shannon.
And thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited about our conversation. And I have to start with this Momma Rhodes thing. Where did this start? How did you get this name, Momma Rhodes?
Well, I believe it all started, you know how when we become moms, we lose our identities. Then you're known as, let's say, my daughter, Elise mom, whatever your child's name, ending in mom, your child is your first name, your your last name is mom. After they went on to college, I would still treat their college friends as if they were my children. So they would then start calling me Momma Rhodes. So it's just kind of have stuck with me over the years that I just feel as though I'm a mama to just about anybody, any child that I meet. Whether you're a young child or a little child or older child, I'm just going to show you that motherly love.
That's awesome. So you went from mom being your last name to it being your first name.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think of that. I graduated.
You graduated. It's your first name now.
I know.
Oh, well, let's get into your story. You have quite an amazing story to share. And you say that you had a rough childhood. A lot of people, they don't like to use that word trauma, and you weren't aware that it was trauma at the time. So tell us about your rough childhood growing up.
Well, back in our days before this mental health awareness started, mental health was kind of like taboo. So no one ever went to a doctor to get officially diagnosed. But eventually I learned that both of my parents suffered from severe depression. And my mother suffers from episodes of psychotic episodes of depression as well. So growing up in that household, because you're in it, you don't even you just think that's normal because you don't know any better. That's all you know is your parents.
Yeah.
So as I graduated, I went off to college and I studied psychology / sociology. As I'm reading these textbook cases and reading the symptoms, I'm going, wow, okay, that sounds like my parents.
Wow, that must have been kind of a rude awakening, huh?
Yeah, it kind of was. And then it went even deeper when I would go to friends' houses and be with their families. And you notice that what was going on in your household was kind of different than what everybody else was doing. Then you were saying, this isn't normal. This isn't normal behavior. So I started identifying that and being more aware and sensitive to the issue that what I was dealing with was depression. And then that was the start of changing my mindset from that. And what I mean by that, it was episodes of, say, for instance, in the middle of the night, because my dad, PTSD from Vietnam, when we went to bed, we had to stay in the bed. You couldn't get up in the middle of the night or that would set off a trigger. What I mean by that is you had the possibility of being in harm's way because he did not realize if you were an enemy or not. So that's the kind of balance or mentality that I grew up with was basically fear.
Wow.
Stepping on eggshells, kind of.
Yeah.
Trying to keep everything normalized as best as I could. Yes.
Now, you mentioned your mom had psychotic depression. What is that?
Well, she had psychotic episodes, whereas she started seeing and behaving erratically. And what I mean by that is fearful of, say, me. I'm now an enemy. Then I would have to prove myself that I was who I was. Kind of like maybe Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's how she treated us. You might look like you, but I don't believe that's you.
Well, you said you have siblings?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Did were they all affected the same way? Sometimes in a household it varies with siblings, or one's treated differently, or one's oblivious to it, or something like that.
Interesting you said that, because my younger brother didn't necessarily experience what me and my older brother experienced. I think we experienced more the harsher sides of it, whereas my baby brother experienced the period where it's been recognized and diagnosed and now being treated.
Oh, wow.
Whereas my brother and I were living a life of the untreated versions of this, not recognizing this. We're going to pretend that this is normal type thing. So I believe we experienced more of the trauma than my baby brother did.
How much younger than you is your baby brother?
7 years.
Oh, yeah, that is quite a stretch.
Yes.
So you were in college when you were doing the psychology thing. So were you 18, 19?
18.
So
18.
then he was 11 at that time.
Yes.
So
still young.
Yeah,
very
so
young.
Your parents are getting care for their mental health issues now. That's wonderful. That's so good to hear. Wow. So how did you cope with this erratic behavior, afraid to get out of bed? If you had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I mean, would you like go against the wall to like get to the bathroom, or crawl on the floor? I mean, I understand that kind of fear. I was terrified of thunderstorms. And for some reason that I don't know, but my brother told me he got yelled at for it. But when it were thunderstorms, I would never wake my parents up. I would lay on the floor next to the bed. So because I was more afraid of waking them up than of the thunderstorm.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm like, how did you like operate?
Similar to you, I think because I'm the oldest, I was more the protector. Where things that would normally scare most people didn't normally scare me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Episodes of like, I didn't necessarily pick up on when people were being aggressive to me because that was normal for me.
Oh, wow.
The sign of aggression, especially when it's coming from your parents or loved ones. So they were speaking to me aggressively. So if you were speaking to me in an aggressive tone, it just went right off. So I was more able to cope with what life gave me, because I didn't even recognize that that person might have been angry or that person might have been irritated, because that was a normal condition in my household. In my later years, going through therapy myself, I learned that that's not normal.
No, that's not normal.
No. And I used to take pride in that and say, I'm not scared of anything. I walk with the mentality of I'm ready to face anything that you give me mentality, which in a way, as I look back on that, that's kind of scary. That you don't even realize warning signs when you might be in danger or not.
Yeah. Oh, and you mentioned going to friends' house, that it would be different. What did you experience at friends' houses that you could compare it to? That was like, oh, wow, they did this. I never saw that before. Something like that.
Say, for instance, like if the child or the daughter, because they were my friends, we coming home, going to their house for college, there was like a mentality of presenting to their parents their errors. Say, for instance, well, Mom, I failed that test. Mom, I went out partying too hard, or I had some drinks and I did this. And then their mom would look at them with compassion and say, you know what, that's okay. You know, you'll do better next time. What did you learn from that? Those sort of caring characteristics, whereas
Wow, that's amazing.
I could never
Yeah, I didn't get that
even
either.
think of failing, or less alone mentioning to them that I failed.
Right. Failure was not an option.
Yes, not an option. Yeah. Mhm.
So we don't even talk about it because it's
Yeah.
not a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you. Wow. So you addressed this hidden trauma in college. How did it affect you in other ways other than you weren't affected by aggression? Did you find other side effects in your life that you identified at the time? Like what made you put yourself into therapy?
Interesting you said that, because you're probably gonna find this funny. I didn't realize that I was suffering from trauma, because trauma to me is just like most of the world think. You've been raped or you've experienced molestation or something big,
Something
catastrophic.
bigger than what we were able to
Yeah,
validate
in
in
what
our
we're
own self.
in. So my daughter, who also went to college, she came back and she did just like what I did to my parents. She comes back, but she did a different challenge, because I said, I believe that you might want to go to therapy. And she says to me, well, I will go to therapy, Mom, if you go to therapy. So
Ah.
I said, well, there's nothing wrong with me. Of course I'll go to therapy. No big deal. Yeah, challenge accepted. Because, like I said, I didn't stray away from a challenge. I don't know what aggression is.
Oh boy.
So I entered myself, I contacted the therapist, and that was eye-opening for me.
Wow.
Yeah,
What did you find there?
I
What would
found
you say
out.
is something that you would have never thought? Because we're talking about hidden trauma. Like
Mhm,
you didn't even think you had trauma. Many people don't think they have trauma. They think it's this big thing,
yeah.
rape or war or mass shooting.
Mhm.
But trauma is the wound that happens inside of us. The things that happen around us are called trauma exposures. So what did you
Exactly.
uncover?
Well, she went on, well, we did this assessment. And doing the assessment called trauma, I don't know, remember the technical word for this assessment, but it measures your state of trauma. And when I finished, she said I had the markers of trauma in every category. And she explained to me that even when something small happened to you and you're afraid, that's a marker in the brain. So the brain is registering in your mindset whether it was catastrophic or just your parents yelling at you for no reason and you don't know why. It's still a marker in the brain. So it categorizes it trauma. So over the years, this built up trauma just kept happening. And one of the things she uncovered, that she was just amazed by, to keep myself from experiencing trauma, and that could be why I wasn't scared, is that every given situation I put myself in, I had 5 outcomes in my head on how I was going to deal with the situation. So most people have an A and a B plan. I had an A, B, C, D, and E plan.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just thought that was natural. So
Mhm.
over the years, we developed tools where to make me relax, because that also leads to high blood pressure, because you can never relax if every situation you're in, you have 5 plans. So
You got to keep those plans
the
straight. Was that A or B? Are we doing this
yeah,
and that?
I'm over there strategically planning an outcome. Just like even this meeting here, I would have 5 different scenarios on how this could go. And then I would be ready for whatever you was going to give me. That's how I
Mhm.
prepared myself. Instead
Wow.
of just living life as God has intended for us to. He
Yeah.
never meant for us to be that way, because we can't control the outcome. I just had to always be in control. So
Mm.
that's part of the symptoms of trauma, was always trying to be in control.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading in The Body Keeps the Score just today about that. and
Mhm.
he was talking about the memory of helplessness and how
Yes.
people will do things like cut themselves to feel or do drugs and alcohol to not feel, or go bungee jumping or cliff
Mhm.
diving or
Mhm.
whatever. And all of those, he called it a paradoxal thing of control. Because it's really not control. They're under the impression that they have control. It's like they're selling themselves, this story here.
For that adrenaline or that feeling that you are controlling something, when in reality, if you just live on your faith, you'll realize that you're not in control.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So when did your faith become a part of the story? You started mentioning as God intended in our faith. When did faith come to be a part of your story?
Actually, um, it happened again in college. Just like my college years were my formative years. And
Mm,
people say that, but I think for me, it was actually true. Um, I ended up pregnant my last semester of college, and then eventually unable to, because I was pregnant with twins. So therefore, income, no money to care. My outlook on life was very bleak. I just thought everything was over because the father and I, we were unwed. We're now married though, 30 years.
congratulations.
Thank you. But I sunk to an all-time low. And I just cried out because I do remember I had my best friend, she was of faith. I wasn't necessarily of faith. Because being in my household it was always a war to even go to church because dad was scared of what was happening in church. So faith to me was a reach. So she invited me to attend church with her one day and just said, just come. So I came, and this feeling just came over me of complete release if I surrendered.
Mm.
And I said, at this point, I'm so low, what do I have to lose? So I did it. I said, God, use me as your vessel. I don't know why I'm going through this, but this wasn't my plan. But show me what it is that you have intended for me, and I will follow. So that was the beginning of that faith. And he's shown me ever since then, that day. When I surrendered, things started turning around for me. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So did you carry your twins? You have your twins?
Yes, I had them. Um, and that was another thing because you contemplate the abortion thing. And I do remember when I was contemplating it, how God sends people, he speaks to you through other people. I had a friend who just confided in me her story about
Mm.
abortion, and that scared me. So I guess he was telling me then, don't do it. So then I went ahead and carried him. Even with that fear, it was the greatest fear of all, because you looking at these children saying, oh my God, they want me as their mother?
Oh my goodness, I can relate to that so much. I was terrified of being a mother because of
Yes.
my background.
I was like, I don't know this. I don't know this role whatsoever. But
Yeah, I'm at
God,
the hospital. I'm like, you're going to let me go home with this? What if I break it?
it's not a manual or anything. They just hand you these babies and say, okay, you're mom. And I'm going, okay.
And that means what?
Yeah, exactly. And then you look in their little eyes and you say, uh,
How could I love you so
so
much?
every trauma that they experience will now be my fault. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so that protection came over me, but this time I had a protection of faith.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what did you do with this fear of being a mom, and how did you lean into your faith and to raise your children differently? I remember you mentioned to me the term break the chain. I love that term. It's powerful because intergenerational trauma is a real thing, and it gets
Yes,
passed
it
on
is.
3 different ways, and so it takes work to break the chain.
It
So
does a
what did
lot
you
of
do
work.
to break the chain?
Um, I immersed before I had them, because you have time while you're carrying your child to start reading. So I just immerse myself in knowledge, different books, books on psychology, parent rearing, different techniques like the attachment theory, different things and outcomes. And I just formulated what could work for me and what didn't work for me. Mind you, all at the same time doing this, not realizing that I'm suffering from trauma myself. But I wanted to make sure my daughters had as a normal of a chance as I could possibly give them. So with books, knowledge, and of course a village. Now let me add that. There were people who entered my life at a time that was just there for a season that just helped me. And they don't even know what an impact they were doing for me. They have not a clue, but they were the answer that I was needing on how to make it through this period, like the toddler years or, those teen years where twins are different as night and day. So you parenting to two different individuals at the same period of time.
Wow, that's complicated.
Yes. But it was a village. I had friends that stepped in and maybe nurtured one of the twins, whereas I couldn't. And as a mom, we have to realize that we can't do it all. You're not going to be able to identify with everything your child wants and need. There are other moms that's going to have to be brought into it that can help you. Whereas I'm not going to say you lack it, that just not might be your strong point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
well,
I recognize
and you might not lack it because nobody can do everything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We don't have to be so afraid of lack. That's something else that wasn't allowed before was lack. Well, no mistakes, no lack, because lack is a mistake.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not true because nobody's perfect and nobody is complete all by ourselves. We need each other. We're communal beings. We're relational beings. We're created in the image of the Trinity, who is a community. So no wonder we need to be in a community. We need to belong. We need to help one another. It's interdependence. We need that interdependence.
And you said it best, but society teaches us that we should be the do-it-all and we should keep things private. Like even my dad, when my mom would have her psychotic episodes, he would tell me, no, this needs to stay inside the family. We had this huge argument on that because I was like, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're dealing with here. Whereas somebody might have went through this that can offer us some help. And true enough, you're going to have the people that talk about you, but you can't worry about that. You got to worry about people who can give us the strength that we needed to deal with these episodes.
Yeah.
So we kept going back and forth with that, but I didn't listen to him. I was reaching out for help, and we get help through, like you said, the community.
Wow, that's wonderful. The silencing of that is fueled by so much shame.
It is.
Because shame is a side effect of trauma. And then there's society who heaps the shame on it, especially during that period of time in history, whereas now we can talk about mental health much more openly than we could before. And we're starting to be able to talk about trauma a little bit more because people stigmatize that word trauma too. They start backing up when you hear the word. But if you're connected to mental health, then we can like roll into the trauma. Like you went to counseling. Oh, I do have trauma? Really?
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And then I realized that I'm normal because that's what she told me. She said, this is normal. A lot of people are suffering from undiagnosed trauma. No, don't even realize it.
Yeah. Statistics are 75% of Americans are traumatized.
Yes. And probably even more since the pandemic when they told us we were all going to die.
Yes, everyone has been exposed to trauma, but people come through it different because trauma is personal. Just like you came through strong and you had a certain amount of resilience in you just because of your personality, it sounded like. And you didn't listen to your dad, which was a strength at the point that you cared more about helping them than keeping the secret, which is important. Secrets can really hurt.
And that's what I want to put out there to the audience, that keeping it in is only causing you more strife and pain than if you release it.
Yes.
Just release it. Yeah.
Yes.
Let it go.
Can you share any more of your walk through therapy because of the hidden trauma? Some more things that, like maybe some things that you did to heal, things that you needed to address, some reactions you had to help other people. You took that assessment. I have one on my website, so I'm familiar with all the different side effects. But what were some of the side effects or things that came up in that assessment that maybe someone might go, oh, yeah, I got that.
Well, I'm gonna share this one because I got permission from my husband to share this. Because we're kind of proud of this. Because I had the undiagnosed trauma, it started causing maybe problems per se in the marriage because you are me. When I say you, talking about myself, are triggered, and that trigger was coming out in a fight response. So certain phrases or words he would use would then trigger in my brain, it's time to fight. Whereas he was only verbalizing how he was feeling, but then he then becomes, okay, it's not worth the fight to let her know how I'm feeling because it's going to lead to a fight when I don't even know what her problem is. So I was not even aware that we were going through this because, like I said, I would feel with his words pain, and he's just saying, I'm only just saying what I feel. But he wasn't even saying it in a mean way. He was just speaking. But how I received it was, it's time to fight. It's time to defend myself, per se. So what going through therapy taught me, when you're talking to your therapist and she's looking at you saying, wow, okay, so let me give you another scenario, because I tell her how I'm feeling. She recognized, validate your feelings. They always validate, but they will bring up another scenario or possibility that you can consider. And then I never thought about that. So she was, I think it was having that kind of like that girlfriend with a level head that's telling you, no, sis, that's not what he meant when he said this. He wasn't saying you were ugly or fat. He wasn't calling you dumb. But I think going through the household with some of those phrases that were actually said to me, that was the trauma that was coming. Yeah,
your brain responded for you with the past.
And my response is a fight response. So we would get into these heated debates or heated arguments, whereas now he will tell you that we can sit down and have a decent conversation now. I can express to him when he's hurt me without trying to hurt him back, even when he wasn't even trying to hurt me in the first place.
I think that's the power of love. Love will convey how we really feel and let us talk it out and maybe say it. I didn't say it the best way here. I'm going to just dump it out here. Like that song, Let the Words Fall Out. Let the words fall out and then we'll put it together like a puzzle. Okay.
Yes. That's exactly what we do now. We put it out there and then we put it together as a puzzle, but we know now that we love each other. So neither one of us are trying to hurt the other. It's just our feelings are hurt. Per se.
Yeah, because love adds value and love wants what's best for the other person. That's what love, that's the character of love. And so you love each other. So it's like, well, he said that, and I know he wants what's best for me, but that didn't feel what's best for me. So let's have a conversation.
Yes. That's it.
Yes. That's awesome. Yeah. So is there anything that you want our listeners to know? You want to make sure that we get to talk about that we haven't already covered?
I just want you to know that even if you have been told that you're not nothing or that you're not worthy of anything, or somebody's other perception of you, and that's not what you feel in your heart, is what their perception of you is, I want you to be confident enough to be you. That's what I want you to do. I want people, especially women, to stop feeling like you have to be something that you're not. Be confident in yourself to be you. And once you do that, there's nothing stopping you from being the best you that you can be. Yes. The you God intended for you to be.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you have any new things on the horizon? I think a little birdie told me you do.
I do. I'm in the process of writing a book about living in your boldness, because people see that I'm a very colorful person. I love to spread love. So basically, teaching women or learning to identify your boldness, not Momma Rhodes' boldness, not Danielle's boldness, but your boldness. Yes.
So when do you think that might be coming
Definitely
out?
look forward for that at the end of the year.
Wonderful. And the title, do you have it yet, or is it a working
Live in
title?
Your Boldness.
Live in Your Boldness. Awesome. Yeah, that's going to be a great book. Wow. Well, how can people connect with you if they want to have you pour into them? Your consulting, how do people connect with you?
You can go to my website at www.convowithmommarhodes.com and schedule a discovery call. It's absolutely free, because I like to call it a discovery call, because we have to be able to connect in order for you to find your boldness. So sometimes I might not be the person for you. We'll decide that during the call. But if I am, we will proceed forward and help you discover your boldness.
That's awesome. So listeners, reach out to Momma Rhodes here, go to her website and plug in with what you need. And thank you for listening to us today. Thank you for sharing your heart today, Shannon. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this, and to help uncover that invisible trauma, to uncover it so people can see it, so they can have the courage to push that shame aside and to do something about it. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And listeners, thank you for being with us today. Until next time, mwah, I love you.